what the Republican Party did is eradicate and completely annihilate generations of branding as the limited government party, the small government party. Because with the Arizona Supreme Court decision, what was ratified is that the MAGA party is the biggest big government party America has ever had. It is everywhere. Donald Trump is everywhere. Its politicians are peering through the bedroom window. They sit with you in the confessional. They're in the delivery room. They're with you at all times, everywhere, all the time. This is The Warning. It is Friday, April the 12th, and there are 207 days remaining until the American people choose our next commander-in-chief. 112 years ago this week, the Titanic set sail from Southampton to New York. Its captain would plow the ship at full speed into an iceberg field on a moonless night on the orders of his company's CEO. The icebergs are ahead for the American people, with plenty of time to see them. The great question at hand is, will we? This week's hits and misses.
All right, let's go to the videotape.
Right here. Take one. Go. Drop him out. Reggie Jackson. Followed by Armstrong. A big World Series for Reggie Jackson. He's slid over to the left.
The Arizona Supreme Court dealt with the reversal of Roe versus Wade caused by Donald Trump and the radical Republican MAGA Congress and the radical Supreme Court took the state's abortion laws back to 1864. It's quite incredible to think about it. Just to put it into perspective, Arizona wasn't even a state, the 48th, until 1912. The first time that anybody even talked about a territory of Arizona, which was a carved out piece of land from the New Mexico territory, was when Jefferson Davis claimed it for the Confederacy in 1862. The Union, the North, Abraham Lincoln followed suit the next year. This matters because the abortion law affecting women in the state of Arizona is now based on the laws and the codes written in the territory a year after that, in the year that Abraham Lincoln defeated General McClellan, in the year that Sherman marched from Atlanta to the sea. And so Republicans have succeeded in their long-term project of overturning Roe versus Wade. They have sent the issue back to the states. And what they have created for America's women is free states and oppressive states. In the oppressive states like Arizona, women are second-class citizens. They are denied agency. They are denied access to health care and to necessary medical procedures for their life, for their safety, for their health. In states like Arizona, in the states that oppress women, politicians are in the delivery room. Politicians accompany a woman into every meeting with their OBGYN. There's a proverbial seat there for Lindsey Graham. With regard to this entire situation and taking women back to 1864, there is a flaw in the design as a strategic premise, an obvious problem. Because since 1864, there have been some advancements in American society towards a realization of the American ideal. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln reconsecrated the meaning of the country's existence with the Gettysburg Address. He pinned it directly to a new creed found in the words of the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. But today, in 2024, what that means is all of us are, men and women. But Republicans, in consigning women to a second-class status, have done so while women still retain the right to vote. And so what happened in Arizona at a political level is probably one of the great all-time misses. Republicans thought they caught the car. They thought they had given a gift to their Christian nationalist base. They thought that they had achieved the goal. But the achievement of that goal may well be their undoing, because most Americans, whether they be women, mothers with daughters, or men, fathers with daughters, husbands with wives, brothers with sisters, do not want America's politicians risking the lives of the women they love. It's nobody's business. These are private decisions. And so what the Republican Party did is eradicate and completely annihilate generations of branding as the limited government party, the small government party. Because with the Arizona Supreme Court decision, what was ratified is that the MAGA party is the biggest big government party America has ever had. It is everywhere. Donald Trump is everywhere. Its politicians are peering through the bedroom window. They sit with you in the confessional. They're in the delivery room. They're with you at all times, everywhere, all the time. But there is a remedy, because in America, we still live in a democracy, at least for a while longer. So this November, America's women can say something, and they can shout, and they can make a choice, and they can choose to put a stop to this madness. And they can say, from the free states to the oppressed women in the oppression zone of America, that we see them, we hear them, we stand with them, and we will fight with them. And we will do everything we can to prevent the block of politicians who want to strip away their rights from ever coming back to power at the head of a fascist cause that seeks to tear down democracy in America. So for the miss of the week, it goes to the Arizona Supreme Court and to the MAGA dog for catching the car. What you have unleashed is a great tsunami, a wrath of America's women who come November are coming for all of you, who seek to take women from the third decade of the 21st century to the sixth in the 19th. No way. No thanks. Please stop. But since you won't, you'll be voted out. A few weeks back, I wrote a post at The Warning talking about the lack of state dinners and the fact that this country needs more of them to show the world that the American people support the alliances that maintain our security and our prosperity. This is so important. All over the world, there are scores of hundreds of millions that look to the United States of America with awe and admiration. And yes, sometimes jealousy and resentments, and even appropriate grievance. We can be heavy-handed and clumsy-footed. But there is a simple truth. There has never been a country like the United States. And what the MAGA movement stands for at its core is a promise to tear down the world as it has been, to undo America's central role in it. What MAGA says is America can be an island, apart, alone, a planet floating in space, detached from all the other peoples, all the other nations. This is delusional. It's dishonest. It's a lie. You can go to dozens of airports across America and get on an airplane and fly across the world, land in Dubai or Warsaw, Berlin, Rio, Tokyo, Beijing, within a day's time. Global trade is interconnected. The world is wired together. Above us, tens of thousands of satellites are in perpetual orbit, constantly, ceaselessly connecting all of us, 8 billion of us, together. The system that guarantees our safety, our freedom, our liberty is the rule of law that comes from democracy. And this week, though it wasn't part of the MAGA insanity, something of profound importance happened. President Biden is strengthening America's alliances at the exact hour Donald Trump and his MAGA fascist cause is undermining alliances by promising Vladimir Putin a green light to invade Europe. Of course, this sends an important signal to one of Putin's allies, the menacing Chinese, who are in the middle of the largest and fastest military expansion in world history, but at least since the Nazis of the 1930s. The Chinese are building an aggressive, expansionist military capability to dominate the South Pacific. But the good news is the United States, which has been a Pacific power since the 19th century, is not alone. And this week at the White House, President Biden showed competence, strength, endurance, vision, and the majesty of the American presidency. And he did it without ever leaving home. He did it with a summit. If the president is going to campaign using a Rose Garden strategy, this is what it must look like. It must be big and daring. This week, President Biden hosted President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines and Prime Minister Kishida of Japan. These two leaders make up two of the most important nations in a vital string of alliances that stretch across the Pacific: Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and more. These nations believe in a rules-based system of prosperity, where there is liberty and freedom and human rights are respected. There is an alternative vision. It's aggressive and dark. It is the regrowth of the philosophies that led to the disasters of the 20th century, for which we have no excuse not to remember and not to be warned about. This is a moment of grave danger in the world. As I make this recording, it is said that the Iranians will attack Israel, according to American intelligence estimates, within the next 48 hours. The possibility of there being a regional war in the Middle East stands at its highest probability at this precise moment. The war in Europe has already killed more than 500,000 people. Ancient cities, once again, stand in total ruin. They're rubble. They look no different than European cities looked at the end of the Second World War or at the end of the war in Sarajevo. It's unacceptable. But this week, there was a tribute to freedom, to shared values, to human possibility. The Japanese Prime Minister and the President of the United States, within the span of the human lifetimes of the old men who fought against each other in the Second World War, announced this week that the first American to take a step on the moon will be a Japanese astronaut accompanying an American crew, returning to the moon as we set our sights for Mars and beyond. This is what democracy is about. This is what democracy is about. It is about the unleashing of human potential. And President Biden looked good doing it this week. He looked strong. He looked tough. He looked like he was planning for the next decade and the one after that for my children and yours. President Biden had a big hit this week. He looked presidential. He acted presidential. When the American people looked and they saw President Biden conducting his business this week, they saw a commander-in-chief ready for prime time. And that's why, in this moment, and since the State of the Union address, President Biden has been ahead consistently in the polls because he is making the race about Donald Trump, the insanity, the violence, the chaos, the mayhem that we see being unleashed and that we see being promised. So for the hit of the week, it goes to Joe Biden for statesmanship and statescraft for a state dinner between Philippines and the Japanese that was an epic success, a political win for President Biden and the whole White House team. Thank you for listening to my political commentary. If you like what you heard today, please also consider subscribing to the Warning daily newsletter on Substack.